Reverse dieting is stupid and you shouldn't do it, and I'm going to tell you why. What's going on, guys? It is me, Tyson the Trainer, back with another video, with another podcast for you. And you know what's funny? I was like, surely I've made a podcast about this before. And I looked back and it was back in 2020, December, right? December 2020. So nearly 3 years ago. And I was like, isn't it funny how... Well, I mean, look, it got lost in the weeds, obviously. It's been a long time since recording that, but also just realizing that 3 years on, people are still talking about this shit and, you know, preaching that you need to reverse diet, you're going to ruin your metabolism if you don't, or if you want to avoid fat gain. And I'm like, fuck, I've got to make another video, another podcast to explain why it is a dumb thing, why you do not need to do it, and what you can do instead. So that's what the podcast is going to be about today. Now, firstly, if you do enjoy the podcast, guys, no matter what, I would really, really appreciate if you could share it and tag me, because it helps other people find me. And then also, if you haven't, take 30 seconds, leave a review. You can even leave a review while you're walking, while you're doing, listening to this, whatever you're doing, just leave a quick review for me. Do me a favor. Come on. I'm giving out this free advice. I'm here to help you make your life easier, and I ask you just to do a little bit for me. Please. All right. Now let's get to the topic of reverse dieting and why you don't need to do it. I'm going to explain this two different ways to you, okay? The first way is going to be simple math and simple logic, just so you can understand exactly why I don't recommend reverse dieting. And then the second way, I'm also going to help you understand a little bit more about the metabolism, all right? So let's just use a little bit of math first, just so I can help you guys understand how simple this can be when it comes to getting out of a diet and not having to reverse. If you know what your weight averages per week of being lost, if you know what your average weight loss is per week, I should say, then you're going to know roughly what type of a deficit you're in, okay? Because we know that if you are losing about, half a kilo a week, you're in about a 3,500 to 4,000 calorie deficit in that week. Because we know that 3,500 calories is we know that 450 grams of fat, or 1 pound, is 3,500 calories. So in order to lose 450 grams, you have to be in the 3,500 calorie deficit per week, which equates to a 500 calorie deficit per day, okay? So if you're losing roughly 450 grams, you are in a 500 calorie deficit. If you are losing roughly 300 grams per week, you're in about a 400 calorie deficit. If you're losing 200 grams per week, you're in about a 300 calorie deficit, okay? So basically, 200 grams a week of average is 300 calorie deficit. 300 grams average is 400 calorie deficit. 400 grams loss a week is about 500 calorie deficit. That's how you kind of know. Now, I did just say, 450 grams, but I'm just going off hundreds, just so you know, right? So if you look at the last 2 weeks of what you've been losing, on average, you will then know what your how many calories you're in a deficit at the moment. So let's say you're losing 400 grams a week. You're in a 500-ish calorie deficit. That means you've got an energy gap of 500 calories, okay? So that just means basically, your maintenance is 500 calories more than it is now. If you're dieting on 1,800 calories and you're losing 400 to 450 grams a week, your actual maintenance calories is 2,300. Okay? I hope that makes sense. So why the fuck would you need to reverse diet? If you know what your rate of weight loss is, and then you know usually what that equates to in a deficit, calorie-wise, all you have to do is close the energy gap by eating those calories back. That's it. There's no fat gain. There's no metabolic compensation. There's no undoing your metabolism. And most importantly, again, there's no fat gain. How do you gain fat if you're just closing an energy deficit gap? You can't. You're not doing anything that's going to affect you gaining body fat, because you're not doing anything extra. And this is why it's good to know math, firstly. Secondly, it's just good to know your numbers, because like I just said, if you know roughly what your rate of weight loss is, then you know exactly what your calories need to be in order to maintain your weight. And so that means you don't have to do anything else. And a lot of people still get scared about this, like, I'm coming out of a deficit, I'm not sure what should I be doing, or I'm just very confused why there still is confusion, I guess you would say. Because that's like black and white knowingness, all right? And if you're like, but last week I lost 300 grams and this week I lost 250, let's say this is your predicament, right? Or I lost 500 grams the week before, and this week I'm losing 300 grams. What do? Go off the 300 gram mark, okay? Go off the most recent one if you have been as consistent as possible. Okay? If for the last 2 weeks you were very consistent and everything was moving, you're most likely going to see the same type of loss. Okay? Like metabolic adaptation, which we'll also talk about, doesn't happen that quickly within a week. All right? So you're going to see continuous progress. And again, you're getting towards the end of a deficit. You should still be seeing quite consistent drops like each week. They should be relatively the same. You're not going to see a 500 gram drop 1 week and then a 200 gram drop the next week towards the back end of a deficit, especially if you've been very consistent with your calorie intake. All right. So for those of you, like, you could literally, if you're like, okay, I know I don't need to reverse diet anymore, fucking finish the episode right here. That's nothing else you need to know about. You can keep listening if you want to learn about metabolic adaptation, but I've just explained the math to you as to how to get out of a calorie deficit without having to fucking reverse diet, because it is a pointless thing. All right. Now, if you're someone who, let's say you don't have a good relationship with the scale, so you're not weighing yourself, and you're like, what am I supposed to do in this situation? How do I know? Increase your calories by 300, all right? Why do I recommend 300 calories? Because just like when you first start to go on a deficit of under 200 calories is not going to see any results for you. Why is this? Because the body, we'll go back to metabolic adaptation, the body can eat, I don't want to say the body can eat, what do I want to say? Anything less than 200 calorie adjustment, the body can accommodate for that, all right? How does the body accommodate for it? Well, number one, you think you're accurate with your tracking, but you're not accurate with your tracking. You cannot be 100% certain with your tracking. So even a discrepancy of 100 to 150 to 200 calories a day is very easy to do without having, even with obsessive tracking. So if you're weighing every single thing to the gram, there are still going to be variations. I'm sorry to tell you, but the ripeness of food, how long the food was cooked, was the food overcooked? All these different things, when was the food prepared? All these things are going to have an impact on calorie content, which you cannot control. We control as much as we can, but people get so fucking fixated and anal about it. And it's like, relax, all right? You do your best, but do not become so fucking obsessive. So even if you're obsessive to the gram, so minute, you're not going to know 100% that every single calorie you're putting in your body is equated to the exact same amount of calories that you think. This is why if you make a small adjustment of 100 calories, it's too little, all right? Again, error through tracking itself. Error through your daily calorie burning, because the same thing, your daily calorie expenditure, I should say. Your daily calorie expenditure is not fucking 2,127 calories every fucking day, if that's what you calculated. Like when people message me like, oh, hey, my calorie intake is, again, 2,176 calories. And I'm like, you think your calorie target comes down to an exact number within 76, not 75, not God forbid 2,180, it's 2,176, all right? That's what your calculation came up as. There is no fucking way in hell that you are burning exactly that number, all right? The body has ranges. And the funny thing about that is that's why maintenance is a range. Maintenance is not an exact number. You do your calculations, you're like 2,100 calories is my maintenance. No, it is not, okay? You might be 100 calories over that. You might be 100 calories under that. We have that range and that wiggle room, and that's why making a 100 calorie adjustment won't fucking do anything. And the same thing as a 200 calorie adjustment. You're just tipping the needle, okay? But if you're in a 200 calorie deficit per day, that's only going to roughly equate to about 120 to 130 grams lost on the scale, which is so hard to see week to week. This is why we start off with a 300 calorie deficit plus, all right? The reason we also start off with a 300 calorie deficit is because that's going to put you, for the most part, in about a 250-ish gram loss per week, 200 to 250 gram, okay? So when you're coming out of a deficit and you're not weighing yourself and you're like, what should I do? Start with a 300 calorie increase and see how you go from there. After 2 weeks of eating at maintenance calories, for those of you who have followed number A, let example A or example B, whatever you've just done, you take your measurements, all right? What's going to happen when you take your measurements? Most likely, it'll probably go up by a centimeter, give or take. Look at how big a centimeter is, and then look at the measurements where they've gone up by a centimeter. Usually it'd probably be around your stomach. Why would our weight have gone up? Let's think about this. Have you been eating more food? Yes. Has the food volume gotten bigger? Yes, most likely. Are you fuller? Yes. Will this food contain more carbohydrates? Yes. All these things will contribute not to fat gain. Understand this. This is not gaining fat. This is giving you an actual baseline of what your weight is. Because anyone who finishes their weight and says, I want to be 50 kilos, well then don't stop fucking dieting at 50 kilos, okay? I don't think you should have a number anyways. But if you're like, I want to be smack bang on this, don't fucking stop dieting then. Because that is not your true weight. That is your weight in a depleted state. When your muscle glycogen is lower, when there is less food in your stomach, when there is less water that your body is holding from the glycogen loss, and hydration status too. So if you want to be 50 kilos flat, let's say, you actually want to get down to 48 kilos. Because when you eat your actual maintenance calories, and like I just said, more food volume, more food in your stomach overall, more carbohydrate intake, actually hydrated, muscles are full, which is a good thing, you're going to be heavier. And again, this is not body fat. This is not your metabolism fucking up. This is just you actually being at your true weight right now. So that's why I said, take your measurements for the next 2 weeks when you go out of maintenance. What you're gonna see is possibly a centimeter change, if that, nothing else. You are not going to see your measurements continuously rise. You are not gonna see your weight continuously rise. Because we go back to logic, you've only just closed the energy gap. Now, if you go over that calorie intake, are your micros, will you maybe see the scale go up and also the measurements? Yeah, probably. Because you're no longer in just a maintenance, you've gone into a surplus, all right? That's the simplest way for us to be able to figure this out here. I don't understand how this is such a complicated thing, how people make out like, oh, you know, your fucking metabolism, blah, blah. Like I've just told you guys the answer. How do you go from losing a certain amount of weight a week to then all of a sudden gaining body fat when the calorie difference is just fixing that calorie gap? It's like, fuck, do these coaches even fucking educate themselves to understand what this looks like? Because I don't know, that's pretty simple to me to be able to use weight as an equation to be able to figure out what the calorie gap is. I'm not saying you guys should be able to understand this because at the end of the day, you know, you have not studied these things. You're just listening to other coaches. But these fucking coaches, you'd think they're informed enough to be able to make a logical, rational decision about how to come out of a diet. And funnily enough, this has been trending since what, maybe 2019. If I made it in 2020, maybe it started in 2020, 2019. What do you think people were doing before then? Because people weren't fucking reverse dieting, I'll tell you that right now. No one was reverse dieting, and surprise, surprise, no one was also fucking gaining fat. Because we just said, this is your deficit, this is your maintenance. It's that simple, right? I don't know why this trend has come in. I actually think fucking Lane Norton, who I respect quite highly. I feel like Lane Norton has started this because every fucking coach starts circle jerking him, and like, you know, it's kind of just like a hierarchy. Like this top guy who's supposed to be, you know, he's got a PhD, all these things. He says one thing and then people just fucking take it verbatim. You know, like, oh yeah, he said this, so I'm going to listen to him. And again, I'm not saying that he's wrong on a lot of things. He's right. He proves a lot of things right. But it's so funny because he also contradicts himself on this specific topic, right? He talks about rodent data not being a sufficient source of evidence. Yet the only evidence there is in regards to reverse dieting is fucking rodent studies. Go figure, okay? And guess what? He sells reverse dieting. What does his app also do? What does the coaching service also do? Offers reverse dieting. You think that's an agenda? Possibly? Think about it. Then we also look at comp prep coaches, all right? Comp prep coaches, your goal, if you're trying to comp prep, is to diet into the show, all right? You've done your show. Usually after the show, the coach's services are no longer needed by some clients because the clients want to have a break or whatever. However, now that I can reverse diet you, now I have you for another 8 to 12 weeks of reversing you out of your current deficit. It's a fucking business tactic. It's not a fucking evidence-based thing they're doing. They're doing it to keep you on board, right? Now, in saying that, some people need the accountability coming out of their dieting phase, not a normal person, a comp prepper, coming out of their dieting phase because they're going to fucking blow out, right? And funnily enough, this is like a weird little thing. The coach will let the person go and blow out. You've just starved someone for 16 weeks. They are then allowed to go and blow out and eat all this high calorie, all this shit they've been suppressing for so long, and then you let them go and enjoy himself. What happens after that? How many people do you see fucking struggle to get a hold of their nutrition after that happens? A lot of people. You see them blow out, you see them can't control their eating, they gain weight back really, really quickly, and people are like, oh, we got a reverse diet. No, you fucking don't. If you have just finished your comp prep, the last thing out of all people, these people should be doing is reverse dieting. They should actually be going straight into a surplus, okay? Why? Because they need essential body fat gained. You have to gain back essential body fat to restore hormone regulation, to restore appetite regulation, to restore sex hormone function, to come out of a bad low energy availability, to prevent any issues of injuries and osteoarthritis and osteoporosis due to a loss of period, due to a low energy availability. Yet these fucking people, all they want to do is reverse them out and take it slowly. If you want to fuck someone's health up, if you want to fuck someone's relationship up with food, keep them dieting more than 16 weeks at extremely low levels of body fat. The key thing here I just said is extremely low levels of body fat. If you're a normal person and you've got plenty of fat, don't actually fucking think that you're going to lose muscle mass or that you're going to ruin your metabolism, that you're going to do any of these things. If you're not extremely low levels of body fat, you're most likely not falling to low energy availability. You're most likely not going to have any fucking hormone issues, because for you, probably losing the body fat is actually going to be more beneficial for your overall health. All right. And there is a difference here. I'm just talking about how all this marketing has been around the reverse dieting, and it's absolute fucking bullshit. And now it falls into Gen Pop. And the same thing. Now a coach, let's not even say prep coach, just a regular coach, will have a client and say, okay, you finished your diet. And instead of us just being like, all right, see you later. Oh, actually, I need to reverse diet you now. Another 8 weeks you sign up for, or 10 weeks. And it's like, oh man, fuck. It's a good marketing, it's great marketing for them. It's a great sales tactic to keep people on board. Whereas for me, I'm like, oh, I'd actually rather empower my clients and teach them what they need to know so then they can get results. And if they feel confident enough to go, they go. I don't know. I think I just have like fucking ethics. I guess that would be the word that my goal is to empower, not to fucking make people feel like they're going to be broken if they leave me. Or like, oh shit, no, we're not finished yet. Once you finish a diet, you've got to do this. Because it's funny, anytime a client finishes a diet with me and I'm like, all right, straight back to maintenance, no one has ever gained body fat going back to their predicted maintenance. Ever. You know why? Because it's maintenance calories. There's no body fat to be gained if you're maintaining your body weight. Now, let's talk about the adaptive metabolism. So with the adaptive metabolism, we all have an adaptive metabolism, and there are people who are fast adapters and people who are slow adapters. Now, before you say, oh, I'm a fast adapter, I know that I just stop losing body fat really, really quickly. You're probably fucking not, okay? Again, comes back to accuracy of tracking, comes back to what your actual maintenance calories are versus your deficit, comes back to your consistency overall. Okay, like people love to pigeonhole themselves, and it's like, why the fuck would you want to pigeonhole yourself into like doing things harder, right? It's the same people like, oh, I plateau, I need to reduce my calories. You've had 1 week where the progress wasn't as quick and you want to cut your calories out now. It's like, do you want to make this harder for yourself? You're coming first in a race and you're like, I'm coming first, but I could shoot myself in the foot. It's like, why the fuck would you do that? Oh, well, like, my last 5-minute pace wasn't as quick as this 5-minute pace. So maybe I need to shoot myself in the foot. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You've had one slower bout and now you think that you've ruined everything, or that you've already, whatever, now you need to slow yourself down more. It's like, you want to make this as easy as possible, okay? So don't pigeonhole yourself. Don't jump to assumptions, okay? Adaptive metabolisms. When you go into a diet, your metabolism will adapt down, okay? It's not within a week. It's not within 2 weeks. It is a prolonged thing that happens over time, all right? When I say it will adapt down, what happens is your body becomes more efficient with movement, okay? You will burn less calories doing exercise. You will burn fewer calories when you're walking. You will burn fewer calories sitting. Your body will go into energy conservation mode. The leaner you get, the more body fat you lose, the more energy conservation is going to happen. The body doesn't want to lose essential body fat stores. It will do everything it can in order to adapt, all right? Now, again, some people will adapt quicker. Other people will adapt slower. Metabolic adaptation is going to happen either way. But the key word here is adaptation. It will adapt to what is currently happening in the environment. If it will slow down slightly while you're in deficit, it will also adapt back up when you're at maintenance. It will also adapt up when you're in a calorie surplus, all right? This is why when people go into a surplus, you can eat more and more, and then when the weight stops going up, you have to eat more than you would predict because your body is now becoming less efficient with the food you're giving it, right? When you're increasing, quote unquote, increasing your metabolism, your adaptive metabolism, it is becoming less efficient, all right? When it is decreasing, it's becoming more efficient, okay? So like a calorie goes a lot further when you're in a deficit than it is when you're surplus. Like your body heat will just increase in general when you're in a surplus. The amount of food you're eating also increases your overall metabolic rate, all right? Like you have energy, because you have energy, you'll just start fucking probably moving more than you think. You might do more steps. You might just be more active. You probably fucking get up instead of sitting on the couch and watching TV. You're getting around, you're doing stuff, you're cleaning the house. You have more energy because of the calories, which then allow you to also burn more calories. There was a very cool study that was done, and they overfed people by 1,000 calories every day. All right? Every day, 1,000 calorie surplus. This is the fucking crazy. At the end of the study, some people didn't gain weight. Well, they gained like such little weight, and other people obviously gained kilos. And it goes to show that, you know, the metabolism adapted. These people, they might have got up to walk more activity, more calories burned doing exercise. All these other things came into play because some people are more responsive and some people are less, all right? So we're all on a sliding scale here, but regardless, the metabolism adapts, okay? Whether you are a fast adapter or a slow adapter, it will adapt. So you don't need to stress about, oh, well, my calories started going lower when I'm in a deficit. It's like, yeah, but guess what? Your maintenance is still gonna be roughly around the same maintenance as someone your body weight and who's doing the same type of activity, okay? So don't ever think that, oh, I've ruined my metabolism now. It doesn't happen. A lot of people, actually, you know what, surprisingly, people think they've ruined their metabolism from doing all these, you know, I've done every diet under the sun, I've done this. Look at what people have done in The Biggest Loser, like how fucked that was, right? The amount of exercise, the amount of calorie reduction and things like that. And funnily enough, even with the studies showing that, like, yes, these people did, they lowered their BMR overall because of how intense that was. I don't think any of you have gotten to that point. Like, that's where metabolism issues would happen. I don't feel like you have been that obese. You have been training for basically, what are they fucking exercising for? 8 hours a day, and they starve them on such little food. I don't think you've been in that position. So you don't need to stress about your metabolism being ruined. All right? But that's basically what I wanted to help you guys understand. The metabolism side of things, but also why reverse dieting just doesn't fucking matter at the end of the day, and you don't need to stress about it. Okay? If this was helpful, if you want a coach who actually gives a shit about your results and who isn't going to lie to you and who's going to educate you and who's going to set you up for long-term success, then you can click on the link below for my online coaching, all right? I always have spots available. I'm going to actually teach you what you need to know because I want to be the last coach you ever have and empower you with these things instead of trying to drag you along for the rest of your life. So if you are interested in coaching, click on the link below. Otherwise, if you guys did enjoy this podcast, please give it a share and I'll speak to you in the next episode. Have a great day.